Hello, I'm doing my presentation on the Sierran treefrog, or Pseudopus sierra, or the Pacific forest frog. I feel like most of you have probably heard this sound before. Um, you'll most commonly hear this around this time of year or usually a month or two before, near a body of water around dusk, and that is the Sierran treefrog. Okay, for identification, the dorsal side of the adults, or their like back top side, is usually gray, brown, or green with darker spots. And the best way to distinguish them from other frogs is they have a dark black or brown band across their eyes, kind of like a bandit. And their ventral side or belly side is mostly white, but then they have yellow inner thighs, and that's to confuse predators, the yellow. Um, and their length from snout to vent or tailbone, is about 19 to 50 millimeters, depending on age and sex. For tadpoles, they are usually brownish with darker spots or speckles. You can tell them apart from toad tadpoles because their eyes are on the side of their heads instead of the top. And if you catch a tadpole, flip it over, it may have a gold swirl on its belly, which is cool. Their range is throughout the Western Pacific, um, North America, and it could be Eastern Oregon, Western Montana, Western Idaho, most of Nevada, and Central California. You can see it here in this grayish color. Habitat. They occupy a wide variety of habitats, including forests, grassland, farmlands, mountains, and they can be found anywhere from sea level to pretty high elevation. I've seen them at like 9,000 plus feet. They're mostly terrestrial as adults, but are typically near water, and they prefer low-lying vegetation rather than trees because they're not much of a climber. And since they have so many different colors, they try to choose habitat that closely matches their color. And believe it or not, there is a tree frog right in the center of this photo, and it's just a good example of how camouflaged they are if they choose their habitat well. And they typically overwinter underground or in logs or some other water-resistant shelter. Reproduction, they tend to lay eggs immediately after emerging from hibernation. Males will use the call that you heard on the first slide to attract a female, and they'll lay eggs in pretty much any shallow-ish body of water. It could be a pond, a marsh or wetland, a roadside ditch, a slow stream, or even a good puddle. And eggs are clear and arranged together in clumps, and you'll either see like a dark dot in the middle, or as they get bigger, you might see more of a tadpole shape, like you can see in my hand here. Diet. Tadpoles will eat algae or zooplankton, but they also will scavenge on dead things or other dead tadpoles, as I have unfortunately learned from experience. And adults will eat insects, worms, or other small invertebrates. And as you can see by this lovely gentleman on the photo to the left, he has been eating lots of insects, worms, and invertebrates, and he is nice and chunky and plump. They are not usually this plump. He's been eating real good. You'll have to excuse my cat's automatic feeder that just went off if you heard that. Threats, invasive species like bullfrogs, as you can see here in this photo. They have big fat mouths and they will eat anything that they can fit in their mouths, including tree frogs. And they also, smaller bullfrogs, can outcompete tree frogs for food as well. Chytridiomycosis is a huge problem. That is a fungal infection that amphibians will get from the fungus chytrid. Um, and a lot of amphibians populations have declined because of this. Pollution, especially in water bodies, is a huge problem because amphibians will absorb like anything from their environment into their skin. And climate change is always an issue for everything, everywhere. And where will they go from here? There has been a lot of research on chytrid like taking place recently. There's some talk of chytrid resistance, also just ways to prevent the spread of chytrid. Huge news, Yosemite is the first place to have successfully completed a bullfrog eradication project. So it's just good, hopeful news for invasive species eradication projects everywhere. But as of now, Sierran tree frog is considered a species of least concern, and hopefully we will keep it that way. So that is all for now, and thanks for hopping by.